with a love.
Look at the secret passageway under the house where you see the old brick. Or in West Virginia, where the ghosts of bricks are everywhere. Sometimes more obvious than not. Hello. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the West Virginia, the home of the incomplete ladder. And you just step right at your doorstep there. Get your toe just sliced right off by a passing train. There's how we do it. Yes, sir. That's how it used to be. We didn't know any better. We got done with the window. Hell, we just stole it right outside. There she lay, propped up against the chimney. Probably till the Jesus and the spaceships come down and take everybody away. That's what I reckon. And I just love me some good old Appalachia. I really do. Terrible impersonations aside, I think it's a national treasure. The whole area, the way of life, the whole thing. I mean, we could do without some of the seedier portions, but I mean, you got that everywhere. I mean, what are you, some sort of a Dudley Do-Right, Johnny Clean Cheeks, trying to tell us how to live our life? What are you working for, the government? What you're looking at here is the Railroad Avenue, 107 Railroad Avenue. It's just construction of the type of commercial buildings in Alderson, here in 1888. Yep, that is what we are told. Building is deteriorated. It was a confectionery stand and a grocery store, and it's been owned and operated by several different proprietors. And this is the one we're actually talking about here, and specifically the one what sells Pepsi. What it looked like to me, and that there is the rear of the building, cobbled together from various eras, as is pretty obvious. And I'm not sure why it's on the survey when there's such beautiful ones next to it. Like, why are we looking at this one when we got this one and this one? Seems like a little deflection. Maybe we'll come back around. Actually, it jumps, the survey, just for your information, it jumps in numbers from 240 to 253. So where goes the 12 buildings in between? It's probably all these. You see how whittled down these are? Even though they, on the pretense of like, look, we're opening our documents for you all to explore. It's like, it's still so pruned over and edited by some people who have weird standards. Let's put it that way. In the best way I could put it. In the worst way, it's deliberately being filtered to exemplify some version of the stories, some version of history that they want us to believe. That's a long way of saying that. Look at the fancy roof tiles up on that bad boy. Ostispo Mounty. What a gorgeous building. Showcasing some interesting foundational work down here. What looked to be different eras, possibly brick columns that used to extend, now painted over, made to match. Hard to say if this little concrete housing wasn't added onto later. It really is. And for that, we're going to go ahead and hit the books. Jimmy, go ahead, take it away. The George W. Eckhart House, or Eckhart, depending on which neck of the woods you from. You Muppety Yankees might pronounce it different. Now, in 1891, where we are at here is Wheeling, West Virginia. George Eckhart Jr., not the same family as you're thinking of. A wealthy Wheeling banker built his home here in the old town of Wheeling. 3-story red brick townhouse, fine example of a Queen Anne building is what we're told. 1891 was its date of erection. Bought and sold a number of times. Broken chain of custody. And there's our answer right there. 1902, well, between 1902 and 1921, sometime in that 20-year period, the arched brick porch was added, replacing a raised landing with stairs. I might have called exactly that. Anyway, this house was built in 1891. Boosh. There's a better picture of that lovely porch. Considered to be one of the representative buildings of Wheeling's progress. In other words, this made the cover of the postcard. We're told that the owner was born here in 1844 to German immigrant parents, got married at age 25 and had 2 children. Worked as a clerk and a bookkeeper, and then a secretary and treasurer for the North Wheeling Glass Company, and then suddenly he became the teller for the National Bank of West Virginia, and then suddenly he became the bookkeeper and teller of the People's Bank of Wheeling, West Virginia. Then he became vice president, and then he retired at 85. He was a stockholder in all sorts of dry goods companies, iron companies. He was a member of the American Bankers Association, the State Bank Association, the Businessmen's Association, the Board of Trade, and the First Presbyterian Church. A well-known figure in local financial circles for half a century. So, yeah. They sold the house in 1905. We're told the stone foundation with a raised basement of rock-faced stone. And we're told it's a fine place to live, with wonderful stained glass windows, beautifully carved mantels, banisters, and balustrades, intricate engraving on the wall panels. Fascinating. And I mean that. I'm that dorky. Wow. Look at the woodwork. Look at the trim. It's so unnecessary and so awesome. Oh boy. Look at that construction. Look at that pattern. Look at that geometry. We know what's going on here. At least we think we do. It's a water fountain. You're looking at it from the aerial view. This is the top, right? And these are the little streams, the spokes. Right? And a little drain off here, drain off here. These are the columns with the toruses that raise it all up to the roof. Woo! I mean, it looks like it, right? Or am I just tripping? Yep, the ruler just shows that I'm telling the truth. Whatever it means, it's a lovely design. Maybe nothing. Maybe it's just a nice geometric design. What's the cameraman hiding behind these two doors? It took me a second to figure out what's going on. I think the cameraman's like playing peekaboo to get this picture. He's like hiding behind the doors. Wow, maybe oh, here he is. He's playing extra peekaboo. He's like, really? He's like, oh no, they can still see me. This is probably a terrible start. Wow, what is that? These look weird on the corners. Almost looks like, well, that one's much longer. Or he's just way more terrified with the chin strap. I don't know. Almost looks like one was added later or something. They look different. Like this one was, I don't know. But very cool, intricate, and very strange thing to have your stove on the side of your fireplace. Like, if someone were to approach you with that look, you would know, I think his intent is, rape. That's what I'd guess. Yep, exactly the same height of a rapist face. Moving on. It's always a banker, isn't it? Always a banker, never a bank.
Isn't that what they say?
Here we are at the Henry Hazlitt House, built by Henry List and his wife Sarah, who were wealthy citizens of Wheeling, for their daughter Jessie Hazlitt. That's what the house became known as it existed, came to construction. God, I said that very clumsily. You know what I mean. 1891, and Mr. Henry List built 3 houses in a row. And this one is right in between Henry's and Jesse's brother John's. He built his children's houses. Keep everyone nice and neatly in a row. Architect unknown. In 1896, Franzheim, Giese, and Ferris claimed responsibility for several of these styles of buildings, including the Bank of Wheeling. And they have no proof, essentially. They have no proof. That is what the documents say. In a long-winded way, okay? Because they didn't even come into existence until 1894, which was 3 years after the construction of a Citibank building, and this building as well. Now, they claim they've been practicing architecture as early as 1890, but even Ferris, the third in the group, isn't even listed until the city directory until 1892, with a different architectural firm entirely. So, you know, prove it or get the bleep out. That's what I says. And since this story is from about 100 years ago, there is no proof coming. Wow, look at that building. What a weird layout. How would you strange your foundation here? It's almost weird. You know, just weirdly with the weird eared. One wonders how this all happened. We're told it used to have a brick front porch that they destroyed and replaced it with a wooden wraparound porch. And they added 3 stories to the rear of the building. It used to have pilasters with Corinthian capitalists and fluted columns and all that sort of thing. And it was all painted white. And this is all based on a postcard. Just look at that front door. There was a iron fence which was torn down to the widening of Main Street. I hope they asked for permission. This guy, Mr. List, got rich off of textiles, mercantile pursuits, and he had 10 children. Well, he only built houses for apparently 2 of them. He was president of the Citibank of Wheeling, of course, just like his friggin' neighbor that we just learned about, involved in public works and worked there until his death, and also was president of the Children's Home, the City of Wheeling. And yes, another bank owner that also owns an orphanage. It is just baffling how often that we find that in the narrative. You know, I wonder if maybe there's some logical, non-creepy explanation, such as at the time the federal government offered a very tantalizing tax refund on, say, the funding of various charity buildings or the foundation of various social services, and maybe that's it. Or maybe there's just something a little darker and more insidious going on that I don't like to imagine of my fellow man, but one must consider all ends, which is an impossible feat, but still we try. What a beautiful home, regardless of how creepy the owner. A banker named List also owned an orphanage. Oh man, making a list. You've all been naughty, children, and therefore we're going to sell you to farmers in Kansas. I'm just kidding. I don't know. I'm just speculating. There's a lot of strange history involving orphans and things of that nature, and just always ties in with the elite. And the biography of this just very mirrors many things we see. All of the sons became, one of them becomes president of the Mutual Savings Bank and a stockbroker. One becomes the cashier of the People's Bank. One becomes an engineer. One's a member of another iron broker with offices in the bank. One of them works for the gas company. One of them becomes a prominent banker and iron broker. Like all 10 of the children, one of them has considerable real estate. They had servants, cooks, maids, and, well, there's an upstairs maid and a downstairs maid. Wow. Never the twain shall meet. The servants were all Irish, we're told. One of them lived outside. He was the handyman. I wish I was making this up. I mean, I don't, but it's a very dark house. Though decorated with innumerous Tiffany lamps, it still was not enough for the owners. Churches met here. We're told that the house was heated by gas fireplaces with asbestos fronts, piped eventually for gas heat, and as early as 1886, they had piped gas into these numerous fireplaces. That seems very early for that. These people were richy rich, like rich with the richie. Man, so cool, those lamps. All of it. Eventually, the family sold their house in 1922 and moved out of town to Woodsdale. The end. Except for the stone foundation with a raised basement that they fail to mention when they say it's 3 stories. It's actually 3 stories and half a... Okay, we're done. The Warwood Tool Company. Yes, sir. We're gonna take a brief gander through this sumbitch. And this place makes hand tools using labor-intensive forging operations, and they basically transform raw steel into finished tools. This place operates with the same techniques that when the company started production in the middle part of the 19th century. So they make garden tools, hammers, mauls, picks, and poles, and other stuff like that. And though it's not part of the Historic American Building Survey, thought we would just take a look at some of the methods used. I thought it was mildly interesting, although it's a little more modern. I think this information was received in the 70s, so it's hard to say if it's actually still in use. This is a press. It's used to trim the excess metal from the blade, these are post hole diggers. In this one, what you see is like the slotted style furnace here, and this is a drop hammer. The furnace is used to preheat the steel. This is that same post digger that we're seeing here. Just to give you some context of what's going on here. This is just excess metal from when they're shaving off, called flash. You see the furnace now that some of the poles are removed, how they do that with the slit right here. Pretty cool stuff if you're a nerd. What he's using there is called the upsetter. So I'm making me upset watching him work without them ocean standard goggles. This guy right here is using what's called a Bradley hammer. Come out of this furnace here. These are iron bars, see, for like the edge of hammers or mallets, and using that thing to smash them into place. I'm using very layman's terms, but you get the idea. This one right here, this is their rebuilding that same type of furnace. It's obviously being subject to heat for such a long time. There's a better look at that little Bradley hammer thing. Chonk, chink, chonk, chink, chonk, chink, chonk, chink, chonk. Knock it off, Willard. Trying to get my gauge right. They call that there a Niagara press. See that there? Niagara. I'm going on right. An idle hammer. Sounds like a German rapper. Idle hammer. Various presses and forges. Some relatively antiquated stuff here. Like a grinder right there. As far as I can tell, it's what you call a peener. Hold your jokes. Nah, for real. That is what it's called. That's better. Hopefully those goggles do something. Anyway, that's the gist of that. What are you looking at, Swans? A little late on the draw there, bro. You do it. You do it, dude. I can't blame anyone. There's no one here. Let's just count these animals lying around looking at me. Like, what's the guy doing talking to himself over here in the corner? Well, you develop a frontal lobe and find out for yourself. This is a Warwood Tool Company worker's house. Yep, that's significant. We'll end it on a high note. Like high. McElwee Building in Pocahontas County, West Virginia. Little place called Marlinton. And this here is a typical example of a two-story commercial structure, a historic storefront with a series of uses during its long and colored past. The date that this building was erected is somewhat vague, we're told. 1909 at least it was a residence, and then it was a restaurant from 1919 to 1920 called Mary's. And then Miss McElwee moved into the upstairs apartment, had a son there, and lived there. There was a McQueen store underneath, and they ran this about 25 years, then they rented it to a church, and then it was also used by a jewelry store, and the same woman lived there the whole time. Until today, here in that same county, we got a place here called the People's Store. If you you couldn't read, and it's ready for you. What's it say on the back here? The People's Store and Party. And Party! One can see by the various roofing styles that this has had a multiple series of, well, let's call it evolution. There she is. The present use, we're told, is deplorable, not in use due to flood damage, and to be demolished by the town, sadly, in 1988 of the year of our Lord, which has already passed and is now not our future. Because we, in this case, are from the future, and this building cries out to us from the past, where it was recently demolished as it presently stands. This building was built in 1913 and named the People's Store and Supply Company. Oh, I like Party better. Mr. Brill lived over the store and apartment until his death in 1931. Then the missus ran the store until her death, until it came run by the daughters until the 70s, and then in 1985... during poor Sherman Gibson's ownership, it was flooded. The Great November Flood. The building is in such a state of disarray and restoration is now an impossible feat, and I repeat, the general store business was no longer viable. The flood damage was so severe that no one had any alternative use for the structure. That's what they say. But, you know, I guess we have no choice but to believe them. It was rather close to the water, and you know how these things get. Although, wait a sec, it can't be the same one. Doesn't look right, does it? No, it does not. We must be moving on. Yeah, no, don't try to twist me up, dude. Don't try to twist me up with your... Ooh, we got him. Stump the investigator, huh? Is that the game we're playing now? I don't like that game, alright, buddy? I don't like that game. We don't play that. American games. McGinnis Hotel. That's what we're looking at here. Hey, back up. Let's start over. Folks, this here's the McGinnis Hotel. There were openings that were infilled with glass block, partially collapsed, vacant, also scheduled for demolition in the summer of 1988, the year of our Lord, in the past. The very long past. Wow. Man, that's too bad. Look at that. What a beauty. What a beauty. Openings infilled with glass blocks, eh? And why the sunken doorways? You know, why the sunken doorways in a flood-prone area? Why this? Why all this? You know why. You know why. The story's not... Look at these windows. Come on, man. It eventually got so flooded at you to knock it down. Come on, brah. Tell the truth. Wasn't your first flood, was it? You can tell the truth. It's safe. Ain't nobody watching these videos. You wanna wait till the camera's off. Okay. Joke's on you. There is no camera. Whoa. I'm a character actor. That was on purpose. Method, I meant. Method actor, Parsons Nursery in Tucker County, in the town also known as Parsons. Just so you don't get confused. Ain't trying to twist you up. Around here, we are straight shooters. This is not just one building, as you can tell, it's two. Now it's a complex. Built in the 20s and the 30s. Somebody left their, boomerang behind. I don't know what that is. Wow, what boring interiors. What is this, Superman's home? Get out of here. Basement plans, eh? I might have known. Women's and men's lunchrooms are separate. Don't you dare watch each other eat tuna salad. And, what else? Apparently these buildings were holding about 250 people, and they were doing experiments on trees and reforesting the areas, planting trees, thousands of seedlings at a time, and yeah, this all makes sense. I mean, I don't see anything at all suspicious about this story, or these buildings, to be quite frank. They look appropriate for the era, and appropriate for the story. See, this is what good history is all about. Thank you, Parsons Nursery, for restoring some sense of sanity. Oh boy. Here's what Warwood Tool Company looks like today. Suddenly we're jumping to some color pictures. That's an odd intrusion. Here's what that mansion house that we were looking at, the Hazlitt house, looks like in full color. Wow, that paneling. It's even better in full color. These buildings, look at the design on that. How cool. I'm glad these have been preserved so well. I don't think we've seen this one yet, unless this is the one from last survey. Yeah, very well might be. Ah, yes, it is. There's the color photo. Remember when I welcomed you guys inside? Maybe not. If you didn't see the last one, well, interesting how it looks so different. Sometimes in black and white, it makes things look older sometimes. So it is nice to see some of these in color and see what they actually look like today. Some of these look unchanged, which makes me wonder if these are just the same pictures as the ones that were not black and white. That was a weird detour. Perhaps I made an error when sorting. We are the type of channel where we own up to our mistakes when we're wrong. We know when we're wrong that it's Jimmy's fault. Touch me. Dude. Okay. Dude, no. Stop it. Okay. This is all part of the Storer College. Various and sundry buildings with unique elevations, all of them. And no doubt riveting stories which call to us from the past. They say, you there, from the future, help us. Help us! Yes. And so we try. What we're looking at is the Cook Hall, which was constructed in 1939 or 40, named after its principal benefactor, Parmelia Eastman Cook. This is a historically black college in Harpers Ferry, West Virginia, which ceased operations in 1955. An ironic and unfortunate outcome of the landmark Brown versus Board of Education decision. We're told it was founded by Northern Baptists in 1867, primarily for the education of newly emancipated slaves, and its curriculum was basically liberal arts, with a little bit of industrial education sprinkled in, for females at least, which included cooking, sewing, and domestic management. The building of Cook Hall is a tangled narrative, but the visual qualities are derived from the local gray-green stone used for its walls and the colonial revival. Oh, not colonial. Colonial revival? Interesting. Anyhow, the attractive and well-constructed buildings were reused by the National Park Service after a congressional appropriation, i.e. burgled by the government, which allowed the agency to purchase the defunct historic campus, no doubt, in the name of helping them out, and established a training center here for future government slaves and minions. That's a little bit of creative license I took there. But the overall building of it is sort of shrouded in mystery, is what we're told. Anyway. The architect for the prototype is not really known, and it was jacked in a 1962 Declaration of Taking. The United States of America versus President and Trustees of Storer College. The Declaration of Taking. That is funny. It's like, well, it was appropriated. And the bill's like, you got jacked, suckers. There's a lot more to the story, no doubt, but we're fresh out of pitches, so we'll move on for now. This is the Veterans Administration Medical Center building in Huntington. We've got a friend of the channel, I believe, who lives very close to these parts on the Kentucky side. We'll be continuing our journey down south into those fair lands right after this. West Virginia gets wrapped up. The architect for this building's name, well, we don't know. There's a number of architects' names and signatures for various phases written on the drawings. It might be William Talbot. Others listed are R.E. Guard, M.P. Toon, I.D. Wilkinson, G.L. Peoples, and O. Hidalgo. Which sounds like a song written by caballeros. Pero who am I, you know? Just shooting in the dark here. 1956, newspaper accounts report on modifications to the administration building for relocation of out-of-patient services from downtown Huntington in this fine nation. Also included in the description or the installation of vinyl asbestos tile, office space, new ambulation, and emergency room entration and room conferencing. And all of that's what happens when Dr. Seuss beats the Historic American Building Survey. I'm going on break. We got a rather ridiculous building now here that we're faced with, and we're just being told that this was just built to be a hospital, built to be a medical center. Georgia colonial revival style, that's what we're told. Excellent condition, where all things are within the realm of possibility, I suppose. But that is just ridiculous. Why do you need this on your hospital? Why? I don't think I buy this story one bit. Look at the size of it. Look at the, just like sunken in, or like they dug this half out and had to reface the bottom. You know, if you have a building, let's say this whole thing's underwater, and then, or to some extent, or you have that soil liquefaction, however it happens, let's just say, and you get these sort of flooded out buildings, and you have to dig out the foundation if there's a lot of water damage and reface it. So it would make sense to think that maybe a lot of these buildings were, at one point, for whatever reason, inundated with water, and a lot of it had to be reclad with what they call like a water table, you know? I don't know. It's just a recklessly speculation, but I mean, the opulence. In West Virginia, look at this building, my lord. Always a government building, too, you know? It's like, they spending our money on these fine Corinthian capitals, eh? Not part of any budget that I'm made aware of. But it says right here with the Phoenix that it was erected, and that's what the sign says, so, by the Veterans Administration. So, you know, deal with it, bro. God, be rolling around in the grave, they know we use these beautiful entries for such, to just put chicken wire glass up. You know, what a weird people we are. Just in general with weird histories. Okay, of course, you know, anytime you notice that all of these buildings, the ones that make sense, there's like no construction photos, but the one they really need to sell you on is like, see, here's a photo right here. And it's like, what are you building? This thing looks done. What is all this? This looks like it moved mountains of dirt and all these sandbags. Like this was like a flooded out area. I mean, I don't know, but this just looks stupid. What is this? This is supposed to be under construction. Look at the waterway that goes underneath this building. Exactly what we often surmise that these huge multi-bayed buildings have more to do with engineering and industry than they do civil service or veterans, medical. I mean, it's like these buildings is repurposed. Why else would you have that under there, that area? I mean, like, what are you excavating here? I mean, I understand plumbing for such a massive building, but, and then suddenly it's perfect. Look at the manicured lawn goes all the way up to the windows now. Somehow all this is just, we just rolled out the AstroTurf. I mean, dude, I don't know. Just too many of these buildings look too funny. Like, this just looks like goes down further, as we saw, and yeah, tacked on this staircase to get up to the second story. I mean, if it was flooded up to here, then this would be the basement, and then you'd have stairs up to this floor, and then you'd enter in between columns. Like, that's just what it seems like to me. These same, no matter where you are, right? Across the world, Bangladesh, Argentina, Vietnam, doesn't matter. Always the same sort of industrial look to these buildings that belies what they say about the materials at hand at the time. Just all seems like a big joke. And I'm not laughing. I'm just making videos about it. And then I'm laughing. But the laughter is from me, not you. Harumph. That may not be true, but I gotta try to beat him down somehow. We understand the story, and we don't agree that it's true. I'd rather beat down. What the heck's that all about? This picture was taken in 1939 during the month of March, showing the work that was installed during the month of March. I'm sorry, this was March. Then allegedly, 1 month later, you have this. Okay, couple questions. Maybe it's an angle thing, although I don't think so. But this one's supposedly taken earlier. Over here on the left, if this is the same side, which I'm guessing it is based on the angle and this window here, it's kind of out of place, right? The difference between these windows. Here on this one, you've got these buildings back here, which look completely fully brick, at least the same amount of height as these. 1 month later, they're gone. And in place, you have this tower thing being built of wood, and back there it's like Kansas from Wizard of Oz. What's going on with that? And then here, is it just the angle? I don't think so. Looks pretty much the same, unless I'm missing something. And then here you have them again. 1 month later, different angle. Doesn't appear to be any houses back there. So what is going on with that? I don't know. Something suspicious about this. This was, of course, from a date unknown, when apparently it's finished and they painted the bottom a different color. I mean, I don't know. These are just odd pictures. Odd pictures to more Brian. When I just crossed the little river here and take a look at this very modern looking bridge from the comfort of the underneath. Built in 1901, eh? Well, that is interesting. Looks very different from the things that we are building in 1901, by my recommendation. Love me some rivers. I sure would like to visit West Virginia. I sure would. And see all this crazy stuff firsthand. Oh no. Oh yeah. For a second there, I thought I forgot to hit record. This is the Williams Duplex Tenement in Wheeling, Ohio County in West Virginia. And what we're told is that these are some very well-preserved examples of Italianate middle-class townhomes. 1880s. Built in 1883 to 1884. Architect unknown. Very interesting. Way these almost look like houses on houses. Very interesting indeed. That block sort of foundation here. Basement windows and just a very gorgeous trim on that property. Yeah, that's what we saw earlier. All in full color. Yeah, beautiful. What a gorgeous homes. So after a long chain of custody, we're told that the Williams, Carolyn and her daughter Bertha were the widow of a pastor in the area at a Presbyterian church for 4 or 5 years, and resigned because the church was unable to pay his salary. He worked later on at a few other churches that closed, and somehow through this, his wife or widow was able to purchase these. We're told the Italian mansion of Henry K. List, what we looked at earlier, just up the street. Many of these homes in this area exist still today. This is one of the earliest settled areas of the town, often called Old Town. And in Wheeling, this was a decade, 1880s I mean, of considerable growth and change. 1882, Wheeling becomes only the fourth city in the United States to have electric lights. And in 1886, the Natural Gas Company of West Virginia begins piping gas for heated homes. So I guess it does make sense with that home that we heard earlier. That's very early. Replacing coal burning as the primary source of heat. And that was in 1886. 1887, they replaced the horse-drawn trolleys with the electric railway system, becoming only the third city in the country to have an electric railway system. So what is going on here? We saw this here, and we saw this somewhere in California, Alameda, I believe it was, where they had the first power plant randomly in California, and then this city in West Virginia is one of the first. Just very interesting. You know, this was settled so much earlier than California. This kind of makes sense, but it is interesting that it's Wheeling. So we're told that it was very hard to find a place to live here because it was highly sought after. And with homes like these, one can clearly see why. Except that one looks a little bit falling down. Wow, look at that. Trees are winning this battle. Hold on there, bro. I mean, maybe it's not that amazing. But look at this. This looks like a skeleton, and he's got his bony, arms reaching out here. This is his hand. I'm tracing it poorly. See, he's got his other hand here. And he's missing his head. This is his rib cage. And he's like coming out of the slime water and he's like, grabbing onto this building. Isn't that what it looks like, though? I'm going to take my drawings away and you can check it out for yourself. Boosh. You see it? Anyway, hold on, little housey. We believe in you. Oh, God, there he is. Just his hands are left. Wow. And maybe no one saw that, and if so, I'm sorry to put you through that. Sad how these look so dilapidated and beat down. It looks as if many of these are not long for this world. Here's the desiccated remains of zombies that you see in the foreground here, and that's actual fact that you can look up yourself. I'm not going to give you the source. You can find it. I'm not your secretary. You do the work. I'm just telling you the information's out there. You go find it. You do it. Here's a strange upper view of some ancient Mayan ruins that were just recently discovered during aerial photography. We received reports from a local worker during deforestation activity that various foundations of previous culture can be seen. These photographs taken from balloon 2 days after a report come through. And actually what we believe here, folks, is that this is actual various silos and workshops and things in Jefferson County, West Virginia, in Millville. And it turns out, well, it's not so ancient after all. In fact, it is over here in the limestone-rich eastern panhandle of West Virginia, dolomite quarrying and processing, and they use it for manufacturing lime and cement and rock wool insulation and furnace lime and lime flux. And these are important industries here in the Jefferson County and the Panhandle region, and it's also very important for the survey because that's where you'll be sleeping, Jennifer. In the cavernous mouth of this terrifying monster. Dinner, is at 8. Just look at that river. Just look at it. Just look at that disgusting, completely natural, free-flowing current. Ugh. Look at that disgusting chaos of nature. Gross. Now back to the dignified and powerful industry of man. Where were we? Okay, oh, that's much better. Thank you so much. Look at the lines on those rusted out railways. Just look at the delicate care they've taken in urinating on our heritage. Feel the permanence of the industry. Look how its conquest of nature stands out in such stark contrast. Feast your eyes on what we have done. This is the land of Mordor. Or as close as we're gonna get, maybe. Now, I want to know, Jimmy, did you drink all these beers? Call me next time, bro. I don't care if you did travel by unicycle. It ain't safe. Nobody is good at drunk unicycling. Bring me a unicyclist, a drunk one. I'll prove it. There's a dollhouse we built for a little alley in the corner, but she didn't show up. No one did, so we abandoned the project real quick. Took everything wood and nailed down. You damn straight. And what you're looking at here is all part of this standard lime and stone quarry industry, where they ship the products out to local steel mills and regional businesses, and relatively few of these early industrial landscapes have survived with any integrity, I might add. There are ruins abound and abandoned tiles and things, left alone. Well, I'm doing a horrible job of narrating what this exactly is, so let's back it up just a bit so I can explain to you better what you're seeing without having to deal with my BS. So this was a service road leading out there, and I know I called it a monster, but really this is just where the old office was. This is the quarry, actually. It's not a river. This is just a quarry, which is why the steep rock walls. It's been abandoned for quite some time, or at least what we're told is a quarry. This is some tanks out here. And these are kill ruins, side of the railroad tracks. You can see what we're told is old kills. And out there is a mill, or what was a mill, the Raymond Mill, as it were, and that there's what's left of the silo, and the main supply building and the machine shop over here are barely visible in all the foliage. And that there's a laboratory, well, the backside at least, of the laboratory and the office, and stuff like that. And this is just a pile of spoils. This used to be the old Campbell's Creek Coal Company store, which is why it has historical relevance. It was a source of supplies necessary for daily living, and, center of community activities during the heyday of coal, which is a feature that you will find to be traditional to most West Virginia gold towns. So this one is kind of being used to represent this typical company feature. That's the part of the narrative that this story reinforces, this building. You see how this works? We just need certain buildings. We don't care about actual heritage or anything like that. We just need the ones that can propel the narrative forward. And that's what we're at. This is where we're at in this second phase of the survey, which is markedly different from the first, as you can possibly tell. These photographs are from 1900, well, some of them, And it was built between 1864 and 1880. And in 1942, they moved this rather than demolish it. It was a furniture store and then a barber shop, and then now it's empty. And demolition is anticipated in the fall of the year of our Lord, upcoming 1991, which is our past because we are beings from the future. I couldn't have been able to do that unless I was an alien, huh? I just proofed it. And here you're in the basement looking at the floor joist. This whole area is actually the Ethel Coal Company. It's a little bit different. This is supply building, actually, is all really you're looking at here. Very old supply building. You can see here with its various levels of evolution, we could say, or regression, I suppose, that you see time after time again. What you're looking at here is just the various vents and openings in the building. That's all they seem intent on showing. Vents and openings for possible old machinery or things. I don't know. Obviously, besides the obvious piping and things like this, one of the most attractive spots in the entire pleasing design. Well, is that so? And what do we have here? Why, this is the old Whites Creek covered bridge. Though it doesn't look very covered. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers built this as a mitigative measure prior to the construction of the Cyrus Dock Company's coal loading facility on the old Big Sandy River, built in 1877 to span Whites Creek. The relict stone abutments, we're told here. Relics, huh? Interesting. Seems as if at least part of this was here long before this. They say that the bridge was replaced in 1877. In fact, evidence for an earlier bridge may have been found during the study of the nearby mill. Pack Creek bed, there are 4 rectangular holes beneath the covered bridge crossing. Really? Only the 4 holes are the only thing that made you think that there was an earlier structure here, huh? The commissioner's records, which early district road work and contracts were recorded, were tragically lost in a fire in 1880, and also records after 1881 are not indexed in a way to permit efficient search. And also, record entries aren't even specific enough to determine what work may have been done. So we'll never know. Now, the bridge was removed in 1957, leaving only its abutments and immediate approaches. Okay, so what they're saying is that this part is from 1887, which they removed in 1957, but there's prior to an earlier bridge existing prior to even this one, which wouldn't surprise anyone at all. Anyone watching this video, anyways. Very curious and curiouser and curiousest. Well, you always gotta overdo it, don't you, dude? Well, my shtick is probably wearing thin by now. So, after making fun of one more bridge, Cyrus Bridge, this one, an essential structure, we're told, connecting the village of Whites Creek and Wayne, it did. This was only used in 1918 to 1924 and was abandoned when an underpass was built to cross beneath the new double tracks later in 1924, which is the same year that they stopped using it. But there was a wooden bridge here, and they incorporated the 1903 stonework into the reinforced concrete abutments. Isn't that interesting? Because that is exactly what we see. The old stonework reinforced by this concrete. And it's very obvious that that's the case. You see the stone here, and then here they had to add the concrete and make the top, which is what we always speculate that all these bridges look like. And usually we're told nothing of the sort, but this one specifically, finally, well, not finally, there's been others, but at least most recently in my mind, this one's narrative matches exactly what we see. How about that? And on that note, I'm going to quit while I'm ahead and march off, my head held high, after slam dunking on the narrative so freaking hard I broke the glass. Boosh, boosh, bridge, boosh. And I'll see you soon. Sorry if I'm really annoying.